Hey again. Today I'm going to be doing a follow-up to the absolute beginner's guitar lesson that I did, and I'm going to cover a bit more ground in this one just because I've done the basics now. So if you haven't seen that lesson, just go back to my channel and find the first lesson I did, which is absolute beginner's guitar lesson. This one's part 2, so make sure you've looked at that and had a good look at and just covered the basics. Today I'm going to be doing a C chord, an F chord, a G chord and a D chord. So the last 4 major chords. I'll also include the D minor as well, but I'll leave the other 3 minors for another lesson. Okay, starting with the C chord, which is going to need your index finger on the 1st fret of the B, okay, which is the 2nd string in from the last, and your middle finger needs to go on the 2nd fret of the D, and finally your ring finger needs to go on the 3rd fret of the A. So you need to exclude the E. Don't play that when you play this chord, because it just doesn't go with the chord, it ruins it. So it should sound like this. So that's a C major. Okay, the next chord I'm going to play is an F chord. And this chord's going to include all of your fingers. So this is the first time you're going to start using your pinky finger, your little finger here. So you need to get used to using that because it's quite important for progression later on. When you start playing individual notes and things and scales, it starts to get a bit more intense with the pinky finger. So give him a good exercise. Okay, so this is the F chord. This starts with your index finger on the high E on the 1st fret, like there, and quite high up the fret here, because you've got to include your middle finger on the 1st fret of the B string right next to it, so it's quite packed in there, and your ring finger needs to go on the 2nd fret of the G string, followed by your pinky finger now needs to go on the 3rd fret, bit of a stretch here, it's the whole of your hand using now, on the 3rd fret of the D string, and you need to exclude the last 2 strings, the A and the E. Should sound something like this, strumming the 4 strings. And I'm going to show you an alternative way to play the F chord, which is the way I play it. It's a little bit more intense on the index finger, because what I do is I bar the 2 that are meant to be for your first 2 fingers with just the index finger. This is just the way I was taught it, and the middle finger then goes where it should do, which is the 2nd fret of the G, and your ring finger goes where it should do, which is the 3rd fret of the D, and that sounds like the same, of course. But you don't have to use your pinky finger, which is, I think that's just the way that I avoided using my pinky finger in the start, which I kind of regretted after, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so that was the F major. 2 ways of playing that. Moving on to the D, I'm going to do now the D chord, D major, which starts with your index finger on the 2nd fret of the E, and your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and then your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B. And this is the way I play it, so I'll show you the other way that's actually the traditional way in a second. But this is how it should sound, and you need to exclude the last 2 strings again in this, so the E and the A need to just stay out of this. So it should sound like this. And the way I was telling you before, that's the actual traditional way of playing it, which is you start with your middle finger here on the second fret of the E. Then your index finger goes on the second fret of the G, and your ring finger goes on the third fret of the B. So that's the other way you can play it if you want, whichever way is easy for you. But the thing that I'm going to show you now, which is the D minor, kind of works in favour of the way I play it. So the way I was playing it there, the way I play it there, like I showed you before, and you literally just move your index finger down one fret here, look, to the first fret of the E string, and this gives you your D minor. You can hear that there. And obviously if you're in the position before you're supposed to play it, it's kind of harder to play the E minor, because you have to switch to there like that. Whereas you could just slide down. So that's that way. Okay, so the last chord is going to use all of your fingers again, including your pinky, of course. And this is what this should look like. So you've got your pinky finger on the third fret of the E string, the high E, followed by the ring finger on the third fret of the B string, and your index finger goes on the second fret of the A string, the large A string, and then your middle finger follows that on the third fret of the E string, and that should sound like this. Okay, so the next lesson I'm going to be covering some more advanced sort of chords, sort of sevens. I'll maybe touch on some bar chords, but you need to make sure you've got the basic chords down, obviously, first, and you keep practicing them to build up the strength in your fingers and your forearm, so that you can tackle the more sort of strenuous bar chords and things. Try and play one that you can actually see. So that'd be an F bar chord, for example, which sort of allow you to move around on the fretboard a bit more and include some minors and different variations that are quite important for advancing later on as well. So yeah, thanks for watching and subscribe.